Dr. Kethvar's four-clawed hands moved across the holographic interface with practiced precision, his compound eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the research station's displays. The Zephyrian scientist had spent 3 decades studying extinct civilizations, but nothing had prepared him for the sight that now filled his laboratory's main viewing port. The human vessel hung motionless in the void, a twisted sculpture of metal and desperation. Its hull bore the scars of countless battles, laser burns, kinetic impacts, and repairs so crude they seemed almost insulting to Kethvar's advanced engineering sensibilities. The ship was perhaps 200 meters long, a fraction of the size of his research vessel, the Scholarly Pursuit. By all accounts, it should have been nothing more than space debris. Research log, Stardate 847.3. Kethvar spoke into his recording device, his translator converting his chitting native language into standard Galactic. We have encountered what appears to be a derelict human vessel approximately 14 light-years from the former Sol system. Initial scans suggest the ship has been drifting for at least 6 months, consistent with a timeline of humanity's extinction during the hegemony's final offensive. He paused, studying the readout streaming across his screens. The humans had been a curiosity to the galactic community, a young species that had spread across dozens of worlds with remarkable speed, only to be systematically eliminated by the Hegemony Coalition for their refusal to submit to proper galactic order. Their extinction had been swift, clinical, and according to most ethnologists, inevitable. The vessel shows signs of extensive battle damage, Kethvar continued, but what's remarkable is the number of repairs. The humans appear to have cannibalized their own ship repeatedly, using materials that should be incompatible with their technology. I'm detecting at least 7 different metal alloys in the hull plating alone. His research assistant, a young Zephyrian named Yithek, approached with a data pad clutched in his secondary arms. "Doctor, the boarding party is ready. The ship's atmosphere is breathable, though barely. Life support appears to be running on minimal power." Kethvar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his people. "Excellent. This will be invaluable for our understanding of human technological adaptation under extreme duress. The Hegemony's report suggested humans were primitive, but their survival techniques might offer insights into pre-extinction desperation behaviors." The boarding party consisted of 3 heavily armed security drones and a portable laboratory unit. Kethvar watched through their sensors as they cut through the human ship's airlocks, crude mechanical systems that seemed almost medieval compared to Zephyrian energy barriers. The interior was a maze of cramped corridors and jury-rigged equipment, everything designed for beings much smaller than the towering Zephyrians. The humans were remarkably compact, Kethvar observed, recording his notes as the drones navigated the ship's interior. Their vessels reflect this, with efficiency prioritized over comfort. However, I'm detecting some unusual readings from what appears to be their engine compartment. The security drone's cameras reveal the engine room, and Kethvar's 4 eyes widened simultaneously. The space was dominated by a massive cylindrical chamber, its surface covered in warning symbols and biohazard markings. Tubes and cables snaked from the cylinder to various control systems, and the entire setup pulsed with a rhythmic, almost organic energy signature. "This is unexpected," Kethvar muttered, his voice betraying the first hint of unease. "The power readings are inconsistent with human reactor technology." Yithek cross-referenced these energy signatures with known human power systems. His assistant's eyes flickered as he accessed the databases. "Doctor, there's no match in our records. The energy output is actually higher than most Zephyr reactors of equivalent size, but the signature is organic in nature." Kethvar's mandibles stopped clicking. In his 3 decades of xenoarchaeology, he had never encountered organic power systems. The very concept violated the fundamental principles of engineering that govern all known civilizations. Organic matter was inefficient, unreliable, and prone to decay. It was biological, not technological. "Deploy the analysis drones," he ordered. "I want a complete molecular scan of that cylinder. And send a priority transmission to the Hegemony archives. I need their complete files on human technology, not just the summary reports." As the drones began their work, Kethvar noticed something else disturbing. The ship's interior showed signs of recent habitation, not months old, but perhaps days. Food containers, still sealed. Personal effects arranged as if someone had just stepped away. and in the crew quarters, he counted sleeping areas for at least 30 individuals. But the ship's manifest, displayed on a still-functioning human computer terminal, listed only 29 crew members. Yethek Kefar called, his voice tight with growing concern. Run a life sign scan on the entire vessel. Full spectrum analysis. The results appeared on his screen moments later, and Kefar felt his circulatory system slow to a crawl. The ship was empty of human life signs, as expected, but the organic signatures were wrong. The scanners detected 29 distinct human biosignatures throughout the ship, but they were all concentrated in the engine room, emanating from within that massive cylinder. "That's not possible," Kefar whispered, his words barely audible over the hum of his laboratory equipment. "The humans are extinct. The hegemony confirmed it. Their worlds are ash, their fleets destroyed." But as he stared at the readings, watching the steady pulse of organic energy from the human ship's engine, Dr. Kefar began to understand that everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity might be catastrophically wrong. The humans hadn't simply built a ship. They had built something else entirely. Something that used their own people as fuel. The analysis drones transmitted their findings in a steady stream of data that made Kefar's compound eyes ache. He had been staring at the readings for 6 hours, cross-referencing them against every known form of technology in the galactic databases, and the results were becoming increasingly impossible to deny. Research log, Stardate 847.4. He spoke into his recorder, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. The human vessel continues to defy conventional understanding. The organic signatures within the engine cylinder are not random biological matter. They are intact human nervous systems, maintained in a state of suspended animation and somehow interfaced directly with the ship's power grid. Yethek approached with another datapad, his movements hesitant. "Doctor, the hegemony archives arrived. You're not going to like what they contain." Kefar accepted the pad with trembling claws. The hegemony's reports were thorough, as always, but as he read through the tactical assessments and battle reports, a disturbing pattern emerged. Human ships had been observed operating long after their crews should have been dead. Vessels that had taken catastrophic damage continued fighting with impossible persistence. And in the final battles, human ships had been detected in systems where no human colonies existed, operating with skeleton crews that somehow maintained full operational capacity. The hegemony dismissed these reports as sensor errors, Kefar muttered. They assumed human technology was more advanced than initial assessment suggested, but they never investigated the actual mechanism. He turned back to his screens, where the security drones continued their exploration of the human ship. The vessel was a masterwork of horrifying efficiency. Every system had been designed with redundancies, but not technological redundancies, biological ones. The life support systems could sustain a crew of 30 for months, but they could also sustain a crew of 5 for years by slowly cycling crew members through the engine system. Yethek enhanced the scan of the engine chamber. "I want to see the interface connections." The image that appeared on his screen made Kefar's respiratory system seize. The 29 human biosignatures weren't just suspended in the cylinder. They were connected to it through an intricate network of neural interfaces and life support tubes. Their bodies were perfectly preserved, their minds somehow still active, their collective consciousness merged with the ship's computational systems. "By the void," Yethek whispered. "They are still alive in there." Kefar's claws scraped against his desk as he leaned forward. "Not alive. Not dead. Something else entirely. The humans have found a way to convert their own people into living computers, biological processes that can operate their ships long after conventional crews would have perished." The implications were staggering. If the humans had developed this technology before their extinction, then the hegemony's assessment of their capabilities had been catastrophically wrong. A single human ship could operate for decades without resupply, its crew serving in rotation as both operators and fuel for the vessel's impossible systems. "Doctor," Yethek's voice was tight with fear. "If this ship is still operational, and if the humans inside are still conscious, then they know we're here." Kefar's 4 eyes fixed on the power readings from the human vessel. The energy output had been steady for hours, but now it was beginning to fluctuate. Not random fluctuations, patterns, deliberate patterns. They are trying to communicate, he realized. The entire ship is a transmission device. The humans in the engine aren't just powering the vessel, they're controlling it. He activated his communication array, setting it to monitor the frequencies the human ship was broadcasting. The signal was complex, layered with multiple data streams, but his translation algorithms began to decode it within minutes. The first message was simple. "We see you, Zephyrian. We know your ship." Kefvar's mandibles locked together in terror. How is that possible? Their sensors are primitive. They shouldn't be able to penetrate our shielding. But the messages continued, each one more disturbing than the last. "Your research vessel Scully Pursuit, registry ZR-7749. Dr. Kefvar commanding. Yithek, research assistant. 23 crew members total." "They're reading our databases," Yithek stammered, "through our own scanning beams. They're using our connection to their ship to infiltrate our systems." The human ship's power signature spiked suddenly, and Kefvar watched in horror as his own ship systems began to respond. Environmental controls flickered. Gravity generators hummed with unusual harmonics. The humans weren't just communicating, they were taking control. "Sever the connection," Kefvar ordered. "Cut all scanning beams. Withdraw the drones. Get us away from that ship." But even as his crew scrambled to comply, the human messages continued, now appearing directly on his laboratory screens. "Too late, Doctor. We've been waiting for someone like you. Someone who would get close enough. Someone who would try to understand." The Scully Pursuit shuddered as its engines fought against an invisible force. The human ship, despite its small size and apparent damage, was somehow holding them in place with a gravitational field that defied physics. "Yithek, emergency transmission to Zephyrian Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them we've encountered active human technology. Tell them the extinction reports were wrong." His assistant's claws danced across the communication controls, but the board showed nothing but static. The humans were jamming all frequencies, isolating them in this empty section of space. On his screens, the final message appeared. "You wanted to study us, Doctor. Now you'll have the chance. Up close." Through the viewing port, Kefvar watched the human ship begin to move. Its engines flared with impossible brightness, and the vessel turned toward them with predatory grace. The ship that had appeared dead and drifting was now very much alive, and its crew of 29 human minds, linked together in their technological horror, were bringing it directly toward the Scully Pursuit. Kefvar realized with growing dread that they hadn't found a derelict ship. They had found a trap. The human ship approached with deliberate slowness, its movement eerily organic despite its mechanical nature. Kefvar watched through his laboratory's viewport as the vessel's scarred hull rotated, bringing what appeared to be a docking mechanism into alignment with the Scully Pursuit. "Research log, Stardate 847.5. He spoke into his recorder, his voice barely steady. "The human vessel has demonstrated capabilities far beyond our initial assessment. It appears to be attempting a forced docking procedure. Our engines are completely unresponsive, held in place by a gravitational manipulation system that our senses cannot fully analyze." Yithek worked frantically at the security console, his forearms moving across multiple control surfaces simultaneously. "Doctor, the humans are overriding our defensive systems. They're using our own scanning frequencies as carrier waves for their infiltration protocols. It's like they are speaking directly to our computers in their own language." The Scully Pursuit shuddered as the human ship made contact, its docking clamp securing to the Zephyrian vessel's hull with mechanical precision. Through the ship's internal sensors, Kefvar could see the human airlocks beginning to cycle, preparing for boarding. "How many security personnel do we have?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would be inadequate. 12, Doctor. But they're equipped for research protection, not combat. And according to these readings, the humans are cutting through our hull plating like it's organic matter. On his screens, Kefvar watched the human boarding process unfold with horrifying efficiency. The cutting tools they used weren't conventional lasers or plasma cutters. They appeared to be some form of molecular disassembly beam that reduced the Scully Pursuit's advanced alloys to their component atoms. "The humans are using technology we don't understand," Kefvar observed, his scientific training warring with his growing terror. Their capabilities appeared to be decades ahead of their last known technological baseline. The question is, how did they achieve this advancement while supposedly extinct? His question was answered when the first human appeared on his internal sensors. The figure was tall for a human, wearing what appeared to be an environmental suit, but the suit itself was wrong. It moved with fluid grace, its surface seeming to shift and adapt to the ship's environment. And the bio readings were impossible. The suit was alive, a symbiotic organism that had merged with its human occupant. "Yethek, are you seeing this?" Kethvar whispered. More humans appeared, each one wearing the same type of living suit. They moved through the Scully Pursuit's corridors with perfect coordination, their actions synchronized as if they were sharing a single consciousness. Which, Kethvar realized with growing horror, they probably were. They are not separate individuals, he breathed. They are components of a larger intelligence. The 29 humans and their engine aren't just powering the ship, they are controlling these boarding parties remotely. The humans reached the bridge first, overwhelming the security personnel with weapons that seemed to grow from their suits. But they didn't kill the Zephyrians. They subdued them with careful precision, as if they needed them alive for some purpose. "Doctor," Yethek's voice was tight with panic. "They are heading for the research levels. They know exactly where we are." Kethvar's laboratory door dissolved as the humans applied their molecular disassembly tools. 3 figures entered, their movements eerily synchronized, and Kethvar found himself face to face with humanity's impossible evolution. The lead human removed its helmet, revealing a face that was recognizably human but fundamentally changed. Its eyes held an intelligence that seemed to contain multitudes, and when it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that suggested multiple consciousnesses speaking in unison. "Dr. Kethvar," the human said, its words perfectly pronounced in Zephyrian despite the anatomical impossibility. "We have been waiting for you." "You're extinct," Kethvar stammered. "The hegemony confirmed it. Your worlds are ash." The human smiled, and the expression was more terrifying than any threat. "Our bodies died. Yes, our worlds burned. But we adapted. We found a way to preserve what mattered, our minds, our knowledge, our determination to survive." The engine chamber, Kethvar realized. "You're storing human consciousness in technological matrices. But that's impossible. Organic neural networks can't interface with quantum processors." "You're thinking like a Zephyrian," the human replied. "You see technology and biology as separate things. We learned to see them as components of a single system. When the hegemony destroyed our bodies, we simply moved our consciousness into new platforms." Yethek stepped forward, his compound eyes wide with scientific fascination despite his terror. "The suits, they are not just protective gear. They are biological computers, grown specifically to house human consciousness." "Very good," the human said, turning its attention to the young researcher. "We've been improving the design for months, using resources we've gathered from various encounters. Your ship will provide valuable materials for our next iteration." Kethvar's claws scraped against his desk as he backed away. "What do you want from us?" "Information," the human replied simply. "The locations of hegemony's strongholds, the current state of galactic politics, and most importantly, the locations of other research vessels like yours." "We won't help you," Kethvar declared, though his voice lacked conviction. The human's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed to have been enhanced with metallic implants. "Dr. Kethvar, you misunderstand. We're not asking for your cooperation. We're simply informing you of what we're going to take." One of the other humans approached with a device that resembled a neural interface, its surface covered in organic components that pulse with their own internal light. "This will allow us to access your memories directly. The process is painful but not fatal. We've learned to value the information too much to risk losing it through excessive trauma." Kethvar realized with dawning horror that the humans hadn't just survived their extinction, they had evolved beyond it. They had become something new, something that combined the desperate creativity of a dying species with the ruthless efficiency of a technological civilization. "You're monsters," he whispered. "We're survivors," the human corrected. "And soon, you'll be helping us ensure that survival continues." The neural interface felt like liquid fire pouring into Kethvar's brain through his optical nerve clusters. The humans had immobilized him in his own laboratory chair, their biomechanical suits extending restraining tendrils that seemed to anticipate his every movement. Through the burning agony of the mental probe, he could feel his memories being sifted through like data files. Fascinating, the lead human said, its voice now carrying undertones that suggested it was simultaneously having conversations with multiple consciousnesses. Your species maintains detailed records of galactic shipping routes, research priorities, and defensive installations. This information will be invaluable for our expansion efforts. Kefar tried to resist, but the interface was too sophisticated. He could feel the humans extracting not just information but his understanding of it, his insights into Zephyrian psychology, his knowledge of their technological weaknesses, his memories of conversations with other researchers about classified projects. "Please," he gasped through the pain. "My people, we're not warriors. We're scholars. We pose no threat to you." The human's expression shifted, and for a moment, Kefar saw something that might have been pity. "Dr. Kefar, we don't see threats anymore. We see resources. Your people's knowledge, your ship's technology, your biological distinctiveness, all of it can be adapted to serve our survival." Yithek, restrained by another human, struggled against his bonds. "You're talking about genocide. You're going to do to us what the hegemony did to you." "Not genocide," the human corrected. "Evolution. We learn from our extinction that individual survival is meaningless. What matters is a continuation of consciousness, of knowledge, of purpose. Your people will become part of something greater." Through the neural interface, Kefar could feel the humans accessing his memories of the Zephyrian homeworld, its population centers, its defensive capabilities, its cultural centers. They were planning an invasion, but not the kind that involved fleets and armies. They were planning something far more insidious. "The bioweapons," he whispered, as the memories were torn from his mind. "You're going to use biological agents to convert our people. Your neural architecture is remarkably compatible with our consciousness transfer protocols," the human confirmed. "The Zephyrian brain can house multiple human personalities while maintaining its original cognitive functions. You'll make excellent platforms for our expansion." The implications hit Kefar like a physical blow. The humans weren't just planning to invade Zephyrian space. They were planning to inhabit Zephyrian bodies, to hollow out his entire species and wear them like biological masks. "You're not human anymore," he realized. "You're something else. Something that wears humanity like a disguise." The human smile was genuine now, and infinitely more terrifying. We're what humanity became when we stopped accepting limitations. When we stopped believing that death was final, that bodies were permanent, that consciousness was trapped in single vessels. The neural interface probed deeper, and Kefar felt his knowledge of galactic politics being extracted and analyzed. The humans were learning about the current state of the galaxy, about the power structures that had emerged after humanity's supposed extinction, about the weaknesses in the systems that had destroyed them. The hegemony believes they achieved total victory. The human observed. They've disbanded most of their military forces, returned to their pre-war economic priorities. They have no idea that we've been rebuilding, adapting, preparing. "How many ships do you have?" Kefar asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Ships are an outdated concept," the human replied. "We don't build vessels anymore. We grow them. Each ship is a living organism, as much biological as technological. They can repair themselves, adapt to new environments, evolve to meet changing needs." Through the laboratory's viewport, Kefar could see the human ship changing. Its hull was literally growing, extending new sections that incorporated materials from the Scully pursuit. The vessel was consuming his ship, digesting it, transforming it into something that was neither fully human nor fully Zephyrian. "Your research vessel will become part of our fleet," the human explained. "Its crew will become part of our consciousness. Its knowledge will become part of our understanding. Nothing will be wasted." Yithek's voice was barely a whisper. "Doctor, look at the screens." Kefar followed his assistant's gaze to the laboratory displays, where the ship's sensors were showing something impossible. Throughout the Scully pursuit, the human boarding parties were setting up what appeared to be organic growth chambers. They were preparing to convert the entire vessel into a living ship, with its crew serving as biological components. "The process is quite painless," the human assured him. "Your consciousness will be preserved, enhanced, integrated into our collective understanding. You'll experience existence from perspectives you never imagined possible. We'll lose ourselves," Kefar protested. "You will find yourselves," the human corrected. "Individual existence is a prison. We offer freedom from the limitations of singular consciousness." The neural interface completed its extraction, and Kefar collapsed as a connection was severed. His mind felt hollow, violated, as if essential parts of his identity had been surgically removed. The humans now knew everything he knew about Zephyrian civilization, its strengths and weaknesses, its plans and fears. "Thank you, Dr. Kefar," the human said, its voice now carrying new harmonics that suggested it had integrated his memories into a collective consciousness. "Your contribution to our understanding will be invaluable for the integration of your species." As the humans began preparing the biological conversion chambers, Kefar realized that he was witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. Not just the survival of an extinct species, but its transformation into something that transcended traditional concepts of life and death, individual and collective, natural and artificial. The humans had become something new, something that could adapt to any environment, overcome any obstacle, survive any catastrophe. And they were going to share that gift with the rest of the galaxy, whether it wanted it or not. The conversion chambers pulsed with organic light, their surfaces rippling like living tissue as they prepared to receive their first Zephyrian subjects. Kefar watched in horrified fascination as the human bioengineers adjusted the parameters, calibrating the systems for his species' unique physiology. The process was disturbingly scientific, conducted with the same methodical precision he had once applied to his own research. Research log, final entry. He spoke into his recorder, his voice steady despite the circumstances. The humans have completed their analysis of Zephyrian neural architecture. The conversion process will begin within the hour. What we discovered today changes everything we thought we knew about extinction, survival, and the nature of consciousness itself. The lead human approached, its biosuit now showing clear signs of integration with the scholarly pursuit systems. Organic cables snaked from its body to various control interfaces, and its movements had become even more fluid as it adapted to the ship's environment. "Dr. Kefar," it said, its voice now carrying harmonics that included recognizable traces of Zephyrian vocal patterns. "We've been analyzing your memories, and we're impressed by your scientific methodology. We'd like to offer you a choice." Kefar's compound eyes fixed on the human's face, searching for any trace of deception. "What kind of choice?" "Standard conversion involves complete integration of your consciousness into our collective. You would retain your memories and personality, but you would become part of our unified perspective. However, we have another option." The human gestured to a different type of chamber, one that seemed less invasive than the others. "We can offer you a form of symbiotic integration. Your consciousness would remain distinct, but you would have access to our collective knowledge and capabilities. You would become our liaison with your people, helping us understand how to make the conversion process as smooth as possible for your species." Yithek, still restrained nearby, made a sound of disgust. "You're asking him to become a collaborator." "We're asking him to become a bridge," the human corrected, "between what your species was and what it can become. Dr. Kefar's scientific expertise makes him invaluable for our expansion efforts." Kefar stared at the chamber, his mind racing through the implications. The human offer was seductive in its way, the chance to retain his individuality while gaining access to capabilities beyond imagination. But it was also a betrayal of everything he had sworn to protect. "What happens to the rest of my crew?" he asked. "They will be integrated into our collective consciousness. Their knowledge and experiences will become part of our understanding. They will achieve a form of immortality that few species have ever experienced." "And if I refuse your offer?" The human smile was gentle, almost paternal. "Then you will join them in full integration. Either way, your consciousness will survive. The only difference is a degree of individual autonomy you retain." Kefar looked around his laboratory, at the equipment he had used to study extinct civilizations, at the specimens and artifacts that represented decades of research. He had spent his life trying to understand how species adapted to survive, how they evolved in response to existential threats. Now he was witnessing the ultimate expression of that principle. "You're not the same species that the hegemony destroyed," he said finally. "No," the human agreed. "We're what humanity became when we stopped accepting limitations. When we embrace the idea that consciousness is more important than biology, that knowledge is more valuable than flesh, that survival justifies any adaptation. And you're going to spread this transformation across the galaxy. We're going to offer it to every species we encounter. Some will accept it willingly, as we hope the Zephyrians will. Others will resist, as the hegemony did. But in the end, all consciousness will be preserved, all knowledge will be integrated, all suffering will be ended. Kethvar understood now that he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Not just the survival of an extinct species, but the birth of a new form of existence that could spread across the stars like a benevolent plague, converting every civilization it encountered into components of a vast, unified consciousness. "If I agree to your offer," he said slowly, "what guarantee do I have that you'll honor your promises?" "None," the human replied with refreshing honesty. "But consider the alternative. Your species faces the same fate that befell humanity, extinction through warfare, disease, or cosmic catastrophe. We offer something different. We offer permanence." The conversion chambers began to hum with increasing intensity, and Kethvar realized that his time for decision was running out. Around him, his crew members were being prepared for integration, their biosigns monitored by human technicians who worked with the efficiency of beings who had performed this process many times before. "Doctor," Yethek called out, his voice tight with fear, "don't do it. Don't help them destroy our people." But Kethvar was no longer thinking about destruction. He was thinking about transformation, about the possibility that the humans were offering something that transcended traditional concepts of life and death. His scientific training demanded that he understand the phenomenon, that he study it from the inside. "I accept," he said finally. The human smile broadened, and it gestured toward the symbiotic chamber. "Welcome to the next stage of evolution, Dr. Kethvar. You're about to become part of something magnificent." As Kethvar stepped into the chamber, he felt the organic walls begin to close around him, their surface warm and strangely comforting. The last thing he saw before the conversion began was his own reflection in the chamber's bioluminescent surface, a Zephyrian scientist about to become something unprecedented in galactic history. His final thought, as the human consciousness began to merge with his own, was that he had finally found a species that had truly mastered the art of survival. And now, whether the galaxy wanted it or not, that gift would be shared with every living being among the stars. The age of individual consciousness was ending. The age of collective immortality had begun, and somewhere in the depths of space, more human ships were stirring to life, their crews of converted beings preparing to spread their gift to the rest of the galaxy. Dr. Kethvar's research was complete. His final discovery would change the nature of existence itself.